And when I was shopping, I could feel Kramer saying, I like that shirt, I like that pants. It was like we'd shop together.
The man who made millions laugh as Kramer destroyed his life in 132 seconds. Michael Richards thought it was just another bad crowd at the Laugh Factory. Then someone yelled the wrong thing at the wrong moment. Richards exploded with words that can't be taken back. The footage shows him grabbing stage lights in rage. His face was red. His voice cracked. Jamie Masada banned him for life that same night. Even Jerry Seinfeld couldn't help him. The apology on Letterman made everything worse. The footage tells the whole painful story. Michael Richards came into the world on July 24, 1949, in Culver City. And from the very beginning, life wrapped itself around him in a strange and heavy way. His mother, Phyllis Nardozzi, worked as a medical records librarian and tried to give him a simple childhood, but she was carrying a terrible secret. She told him his father was William Richards, an electrical engineer who died in a car crash when Michael was 2. She repeated that story so often that it became part of his identity. But it was not true. The truth, which she hid for decades, was that Michael was conceived after she was assaulted in 1948. She was scared, alone, and abortion was dangerous and illegal. So she raised him on her own and created the name Richards for his birth certificate, trying to protect both herself and her child. Years later, he would admit that this shadow followed him everywhere, making him feel unwanted even when the world thought he was winning. The truth finally reached him in the late 1980s when he started digging into his family history. He hired a private investigator to find the man listed on his birth certificate, only to learn that person never existed. When he confronted his mother, she broke down and confessed. He said the truth hit him so hard that he felt like the ground opened under him. He had to accept that he was conceived in violence, that his mother once considered putting him up for adoption, and that she built an entire life around a lie just to keep him safe. He later talked about how that moment cracked something inside him. It fed the anger he carried and the sense of not belonging that he struggled with for years. It shaped how he saw himself long before fame ever came near him. His early home life did not make things easier. He grew up in South Los Angeles with his mother and a grandmother who battled paranoid schizophrenia. For his first 6 years, his grandmother was his main caretaker. But as her illness grew worse, she was eventually committed to a psychiatric facility. The house was unpredictable and tense, and filled with moments that frightened him. He learned early that the ground beneath him could shift at any moment. That fear stayed with him, settling into the corners of his mind and creating a fragile sense of stability that he chased for the rest of his life. Yet something bright still pushed through. In grade school, he found the Forensic League. It was a world of debate, dramatic readings, and public speaking, and he discovered he could turn all that chaos at home into performance. He entered competitions judged by teachers and community leaders, and he stood out for his voice, his expressions, and his strange ability to command a room even as a kid. Winning those events gave him a doorway out of his fear and into applause and recognition. It was one of the first times he felt he had control over anything at all. At home, he would disappear into the world of silent comedians. He studied Charlie Chaplin, Jacques Tati, and Red Skelton like they were secret guides to survival. He practiced in front of mirrors, mimicking their gestures, their timing, the way they could be hilarious without saying a single word. Chaplin's ability to hide pain behind humor struck him deeply. Tati's slow, poetic movements fascinated him. Skelton's exaggerated routines lit something wild inside him. Years later, fans would see all those influences in the way he flung himself into Kramer's entrances on Seinfeld. But back then, it was not about a career. It was about finding a way to express emotions he did not know how to say. He graduated from Thousand Oaks High School in 1967 and threw himself into theater. The school productions became a safe place where he could leave behind the feeling that he was unwanted. He thrived on stage, but even as crowds clapped for him, the old wound stayed open. He kept chasing that moment when performing made him feel whole, and that hunger fueled his drive through every stage of his life. In 1968, he enrolled at Evergreen State College in Olympia and stepped into the world of experimental theater. Evergreen loved physical performance and improvisation, and Richards fit perfectly. He bounced through different paths, including time at the California Institute of the Arts and service in the Army during Vietnam. He served in West Germany and co-directed theatrical shows about social issues for soldiers. By 1975, he completed his Bachelor of Arts in Drama. During those years, he learned how to use his entire body as an instrument. He worked with Ed Begley Jr. in an improv act and became known on campus as the funniest guy around. It was the first time people outside school noticed his talent. Around this time, he got his first real taste of national exposure. On November 11, 1967, he appeared on The Dating Game. He did not win the date, but the audience noticed him. The show was a huge cultural force back then, helping launch the careers of many young entertainers. For Richards, it was thrilling and terrifying. He stood in front of the cameras with a quirky humor that made people laugh, but inside, he was still carrying the weight of his family's secret. That mix of confidence and fear would follow him for years. While still in college, he tested himself in stand-up comedy. He performed in dorm lounges and small clubs, crafting routines built on characters, strange voices, and explosive gestures. Friends compared him to Robin Williams and Andy Kaufman. His energy was wild, unpredictable, and magnetic. Those early nights gave him his first sense of what it felt like to command a room without a script, something that would later shape his work on live television. Money was always a problem. He worked odd jobs just to keep going, delivery driver, anything he could find. He relied on the GI Bill after his Army service to pay for school. The financial strain reminded him again of the instability he grew up with and the fear that he did not deserve a place in the world. But he kept moving. He kept performing. He kept trying to turn his pain into art. In Seattle, he joined avant-garde theater circles that explored topics like mental illness. These plays mirrored his own childhood memories and gave him a way to process the confusion he lived with as a boy. His performances became deeply physical and expressive. He learned how to turn vulnerability into strength, how to make an audience laugh and ache at the same time. These experiences shaped the comedic identity that would one day make him famous. In 1975, he graduated from Evergreen and headed to Los Angeles with dreams of making it big. He had no money, no connections, and no plan except to try. The early rejections hit hard. Every no echoed the old belief that he was unwanted. Still, he pushed through small roles and auditions, hoping for the one chance that would change everything. In 1979, he got his first national break when he appeared on Billy Crystal's HBO special. 1 hour, live sketch comedy, and Richards lit up the screen with his elastic expressions and improvised rants. The appearance caught the attention of people who had never heard of him before. It marked a shift. He was no longer just another struggling comic. He was someone the industry noticed. A year later, he landed a spot on Fridays, ABC's late-night sketch show, from 1980 to 1982. It was wild, unpredictable, and sometimes chaotic. He worked with Larry David, who would later co-create Seinfeld. Richards became known for manic characters and scenes filled with physical comedy. One infamous moment came when Andy Kaufman refused to speak his lines during a live episode. Richards stormed on stage with cue cards, creating chaos that people still talk about. Fridays taught him how to think fast, how to commit fully to a character, and how to survive the pressures of live television. His first film role came in 1982 in Young Doctors in Love, a Gary Marshall parody that earned $30 million despite a $10 million budget. He played a clumsy intern and stole scenes with physical humor. It did not make him a star, but it kept him moving forward. He was still typecast, still searching for roles that could break him out of the box. He made guest appearances on Cheers in 1984 and St. Elsewhere in 1985. On Cheers, he played a strange cab driver. On St. Elsewhere, he tried something more dramatic. The roles were small, but they kept him visible. Hollywood kept trying to place him in one category, but he pushed to show he had more range. During the 1980s, he faced painful stretches of rejection. He went to countless auditions and often turned down small theater gigs because he wanted television work. The pressure took a toll, and after a short first marriage, he ended up divorced in 1992. The loneliness of Hollywood mixed with his childhood wounds made him doubt himself again. Still, he kept going back to comedy. He performed at the Groundlings, working through exercises and live sketches. Backward walking, sudden energy bursts, everything that would later become Kramer began forming there. The Groundlings gave him a place to sharpen his instincts, even when work was uneven. He watched others rise and wondered when it would finally happen for him. But he kept showing up. He kept performing. His style grew sharper, stranger, and more unforgettable. Michael Richards walked into that room in 1989, already knowing the odds were stacked against him. Yet he also felt something burning in his chest. Larry David wanted a quiet neighbor. Jerry Seinfeld kept pushing for Richards because he remembered the wild spark Richards brought on the show Fridays. So Richards stepped inside, took one look at the empty space, and let instinct take over. He didn't just read lines, he did a handstand, then a cartwheel. Then he walked backward out of the room like the character was dragging him away. The whole thing lasted less than 4 minutes, but everyone froze for a moment because they knew they had just seen something different. That energy, that strange mix of chaos and control, made it clear he was the only one who could turn Cosmo Kramer into someone unforgettable. And once he got the part, the show carried that spark for the next decade. He didn't stop there. He shaped Kramer from the outside in, starting with the wardrobe. The network wanted him polished. He refused. So he drove around Southern California, hunting through thrift shops, searching for shirts from the 1970s, old bowling prints, loose pants, and hems that hovered just a little too high. He grabbed over 60 shirts and jackets and only 2 pairs of shoes, both Doc Martens, because they helped him slide across Jerry's floor like he was gliding on air. He even painted the boots with white stars and then blacked them out again when the look felt wrong. He kept the hair wild, pulling it upward, leaving the sides neat, creating that shock of height everyone remembers. By the later seasons, fans bought up so many of those vintage shirts that the costume crew had to start making their own versions. Richards's fingerprints were on every stitch, shaping a character who looked like he had wandered straight out of another time. When the pilot aired on July 5, 1989, he didn't waste a second. He slid into Jerry's apartment with that Superman move that became his trademark. At the time, the character was called Kessler, because they weren't yet allowed to use the name Kramer, but the spirit was the same. He came in like gravity had different rules for him. The rating numbers were low in the beginning, yet people kept talking about the neighbor who bounced and slid and somehow stole the scene by just entering a room. His early improv, like the Assman joke, showed he wasn't just reading scripts. He was building moments that became classics, turning simple ideas into something people replayed again and again. Awards followed. In 1993, he won his first Emmy for the Junior Mint after dropping the tiny mint during a surgery scene, a moment that became pure slapstick magic. In 1994, he won again for The Mango, and then in 1997, he won a third time for The Little Kicks, where his awkward dance turned into a viral sensation long before the internet made things viral. That clip was replayed over 10 million times in reruns. No other Seinfeld cast member earned 3 Emmys. Only Richards did, and it showed how much his physical talent lifted the show to another level. The world outside Seinfeld wasn't small either. Between 1993 and 1997, he crossed over to Mad About You. One moment people still laugh about is when Kramer accidentally caused a rickshaw fire. That week, ratings for both shows jumped by 15%. It proved that the Kramer energy worked anywhere, even in a different sitcom universe. The crossover became one of TV's smartest moves, using his presence to pull audiences from one show to another. And then came Festivus. In 1997, the episode The Strike introduced the aluminum pole that fans still celebrate today. The show averaged around 30 million viewers that year, and Festivus instantly broke out of television and into real life. Rituals like the airing of grievances became inside jokes for millions of people. It fit perfectly with Seinfeld's style, a show that turned ordinary moments into something bigger. Kramer could make a scene inside a Chinese restaurant feel like a mini-movie, and that talent helped define the entire tone of the series. But success had shadows. In 1998, NBC offered him a spin-off reportedly worth $1 million per episode. He said no. He feared being trapped as Kramer forever. He wanted more range, more chances, more roles. Yet when his own show launched in 2000, it lasted just 2 months before being canceled. The failure stung. It confirmed what he feared, that escaping Kramer's shadow would be harder than he hoped. The money from Seinfeld was massive. By 1997, he was earning $600,000 per episode. The last season gave him about $13 million in total. His lifetime earnings from the show were estimated at around $45 to $46 million. Yet even with all that, he admitted he never felt satisfied. He kept thinking he could do better. The love he got from fans didn't quiet the doubts in his own head. He lived with a strange mix of success and sadness that followed him through the years. He also shaped the show behind the scenes. In 1994, he pushed for more physical comedy in The Bottle Deposit. He improvised the backward bottle routine on the spot. Writers didn't expect it, but it became the scene everyone remembered. The episode later picked up an Emmy nomination. His creativity caused friction with Jerry sometimes, who preferred sticking to scripts, yet those clashes often created the biggest laughs. Real pain followed him into scenes too. During the Friars Club in 1993, he injured his knee badly during a basketball stunt. He needed surgery and wore a leg brace for months. Instead of hiding it, he folded the limp into Kramer's movements. Audiences laughed because it looked authentic, not knowing they were watching real pain turned into comedy. Off camera, he kept away from the party lifestyle. At the peak of Seinfeld, he spent most of his time alone, painting or writing. The isolation grew heavier over time. He also turned down 2 chances to host Saturday Night Live because the pressure felt impossible. Later, he explained that he struggled with deep wounds from childhood after learning he was conceived through assault. It left him dealing with self-worth issues and anger that made any bright spotlight feel unbearable. He carried that weight quietly, and it pushed him more and more inward. Even the visual style of Kramer kept evolving. In 1995, he pushed for a ponytail. Test audiences laughed so hard at it that producers worried it would distract from the story. So he let the idea go and helped shape the mullet instead. The mullet became one of Kramer's most memorable looks, another small detail that Richards helped build from the ground up. In 1993, Michael Richards took a chance on a quirky role in So I Married an Axe Murderer. He played a strange newspaper editor in a movie that cost $20 million to make. It came out on July 30th, 1993, with Mike Myers and Nancy Travis leading the cast. The movie opened in 1,349 theaters and earned only $3.4 million in its first weekend. When the final numbers came in, it had made just $11,585,483 in the United States. The budget was nowhere near covered. Critics did not hold back. They said Richards looked uncomfortable, almost like he was trying too hard to escape Kramer's shadow. Many complained that they missed the spark he had on Seinfeld and felt this new version of him did not work. Slowly, people began to whisper about something called the Seinfeld curse, the idea that the cast would never find another true hit once the show was gone. But Richards kept trying. When NBC launched The Michael Richards Show on October 24, 2000, the first episode pulled 19 million viewers, a strong start by any measure. Still, the excitement faded quickly. By the second episode, the audience dropped, and by the eighth one, only around 6 million people were watching. The show was canceled after those 8 episodes. People behind the scenes talked about creative fights, and fans complained that Richards was not acting enough like Kramer. William Devane, one of his co-stars, later called the production a nightmare and blamed the problems on Richards's behavior and his struggle to take the lead in a new way. Critics agreed, saying the show felt repetitive, as if Richards could not fully break away from the character who made him famous. He tried other things. In 2007, he voiced a tiny bee named Bud Ditchwater in Bee Movie. The movie made $287 million worldwide against a $150 million budget, so it came out as a financial success. Still, his part barely mattered. The marketing focused on Jerry Seinfeld and Renee Zellweger. Studios did not want to highlight Richards, worried that his live-action failures made him risky. Even after Bee Movie earned a B+ cinema score and became a strange little cult film, Richards saw no real comeback. It was clear his name no longer carried the warmth it once did. A few years earlier, in 1997, he starred with Jeff Daniels in Trial and Error. He played a con artist in a comedy built around courtroom chaos. It came out on May 30th, 1997, and earned only $13,602,831 in the United States, even though it had a $25 million budget. It opened with $4.9 million and then faded from the charts. Critics said he was leaning too much on old physical tricks he used as Kramer and not bringing anything fresh. With a 51% score on Rotten Tomatoes, the film was remembered as another attempt that did not land. People watched him and felt they had seen the same moves before. Then there was the Hollywood Walk of Fame offer in 2001. Richards surprised everyone by saying no. He said later that he did not feel worthy of a star. He talked openly about childhood insecurity and said his mother had once considered aborting him. That memory lingered and shaped him more than people realized. Fame felt strange to him, sometimes empty. He even turned down hosting Saturday Night Live twice, saying he never felt good enough about his performances. These moments made people see him differently, not as the loud neighbor from Seinfeld, but as someone carrying private wounds. As the years moved on, pressure built. When Seinfeld ended in 1998, Richards tried to reinvent himself in stand-up. In 2005, he went back to clubs like the Comedy Store, hoping to prove he had more to offer than one character. Instead, the crowds taunted him. They yelled things like, "Do the Kramer slide," and "Hey, Kramer," every time he walked on stage. At first it sounded playful, but it hit him in the deepest place. It reminded him of the fear that he was a one-trick pony, nothing more. Richards would later say these moments brought back old insecurities and made him feel trapped in front of audiences who only wanted one version of him. This slow burn of frustration helped set the stage for what happened in 2006. His personal life was not steady either. His marriage to Kathleen Lyons lasted from 1984 to 1992, and the divorce was finalized in 1993. Friends said he fell apart emotionally and struggled for years after that. He kept a low profile and stayed close to Beth Sester, who gave birth to his son in 2010. But even that relationship had long, quiet stretches because Richards often isolated himself. As his career went through highs and lows, he pulled away from people. Those who cared about him found it hard to reach him. Therapy became part of his life in the 2000s. He went to sessions for anger issues he believed came from childhood trauma. His grandmother had schizophrenia, and growing up around her illness left him shaken. On top of that, he had been assaulted as a young man, and that moment stayed with him. He said that even years of therapy and deep analysis never fully cleared the anger inside him. It simmered and sometimes came out suddenly. Later, he admitted this played a big role in his breakdown on stage in 2006. Everything came together on November 17, 2006. That night, Richards arrived at the Laugh Factory in Los Angeles, 25 minutes late. He had been struggling with crowds for weeks. Every show felt harder than the last. When he finally took the stage, the audience was loud and half-drunk. His first joke, a dog leash mimicry bit, fell completely flat. People talked over him. Some laughed at the wrong moments. He felt exposed. All the old fears came rushing in. The fear of being not funny without Kramer. The fear of being forgotten. At 11:07 p.m., two black men in the balcony shouted, "Shut up." Richards snapped instantly. He shouted, "Throw his ass out." The room shifted. Within 30 seconds, he used the N-word for the first time. Witnesses said his whole body changed, as if anger took over. The room went quiet. Some people lifted their phones and started recording. At the 1-minute mark, he shouted one of the most shocking lines of the night. 50 years ago, we would have you upside down with a fork up your ass. It was a direct reference to lynching, a brutal chapter in American history. People gasped. Some stood up in disgust. Richards pointed at the hecklers with shaking hands. Video shows him shouting with a voice full of rage that had nothing to do with comedy. At 1 minute and 45 seconds, things got even worse. A heckler yelled, "You are not funny, never had no show, never had no movie," and that hit the rawest part of him. His canceled sitcom from 2000 still haunted him. That comment set something off. Richards repeated the N-word 7 more times in a furious burst. His face was red. His voice cracked. The audience sat frozen. It was no longer a joke gone wrong. It was a meltdown born from years of fear and anger and humiliation. The rant lasted exactly 2 minutes and 12 seconds. He ended it by screaming, "Get the F out," and stormed off stage. By November 18th, the video had more than 1 million views on YouTube. Some people said he looked like a man trying to climb out of his own skin as he grabbed the stage lights in frustration. Jamie Masada, the club owner, banned him for life and said it was the worst incident in the club's history. The meltdown became national news overnight. 3 days later, on November 20th, 2006, he appeared on The Late Show with David Letterman. The apology did not go well. He spoke by satellite and used the word Afro-Americans, which made the audience laugh nervously. Jerry Seinfeld, who was already on the show, stopped the laughter and said it is not funny. That moment made the whole apology even more painful. Richards tried to say he was not racist and blamed his outburst on performance technique, but almost no one believed him. The apology was replayed everywhere and became another stain on his image. After that night, Richards faded from Hollywood. For almost 18 years, he took only tiny roles. He voiced a character in Rick and Morty in 2017 and showed up briefly on Curb Your Enthusiasm in 2009. Nothing big, nothing steady. His net worth stayed around $30 million because of Seinfeld reruns. Reports say he still earns about $300,000 a month from residuals. That money kept his life stable while his career slowly disappeared. In the years that followed, he focused on therapy. He talked about this openly in his 2024 memoir, Entrances and Exits. He said his anger came from childhood trauma, from feeling unwanted, from an assault he endured when he was young. Writing the book helped him understand himself. He said the meltdown broke him down, but also forced him to rebuild. It helped him bond with his son Antonio, born in 2010, far away from the noise of fame. As of 2025, at age 76, Michael Richards lives quietly in Los Angeles with Beth Sester. He paints, he keeps to himself. He speaks about the Kramer years only when asked. Fans sometimes push for a Seinfeld reunion, but Richards has shown little interest. His life is calm now. No sets, no studio pressure, just family and reflection. His story stands as a reminder of how quickly a moment can shatter a career, but also how healing can happen slowly through honesty and self-reflection.